The art style differs tremendously in this version of Mortal Kombat because it's our next generation Mortal Kombat.
We got the ability to make things so much more detailed and realistic. It's just a big step from our last games.
With the next-gen technology, we found it really liberating to make characters, look the way we always wanted them to look, and the backgrounds look, exactly the way we wanted them to look.
We've incorporated now the DC universe into the MK universe and trying to maintain the integrity of both.
The team's really stepped up, really to showcase what they can do because we have all these better tools. The look, I think, is dead on.
At the heart of it, it's still a Mortal Kombat game. It still feels like a Mortal Kombat game, and it looks like a Mortal Kombat game.
The importance of the pre-production concept art was pivotal for the creation of this project.
The concept art really helps to identify not only the look and feel, but a sense of space, sense of placement, specifically with environments.
I think the character concept stage was definitely one of the most integral parts of the development process. It really provided more of a solid foundation aesthetically for how we were going to proceed with the look of the game.
What it really does for me in particular as a materials lighting person is it establishes the look, the feel, the mood, and those things that you want to try to convey in the actual 3D world itself.
What concept does is they highlight the textures that we use and the materials we'll need and the effects we need, and they kind of really bring forward all the pieces that we'll need to make the level look the way we'd like it to look.
We're lucky to have a world-class concept team who not only understands the DC and MK lore, but they also understand what it takes to get concepts into gaming.
The art that was created by the concept team was a great inspiration for everybody. It provided the direction, the lighting, the mood, and it really made everybody kind of have the same vision of what this thing should look like. What is the perfect version of this? At the same time, it provided this amazing artwork for everybody to gush over.
It's such a huge mashup to have DC and Mortal Kombat characters on screen at the same time. So any kind of really high quality art that has those two universes together is going to become a collectible in some way, shape, or form at some point. I'm glad I have all of it saved.
The trick with making these backgrounds for Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe was that they are so incredibly detailed. We literally needed an army of people to finish a background.
Some of the backgrounds or the environments that we've incorporated into MK versus DC started out with trying to maintain both universes. So some of the backgrounds that were identified early, the Batcave, Fortress of Solitude on the DC side, and then on the MK side, like the Throne Room or Hell, were things that we wanted to really kind of incorporate both worlds into the game.
For the environments, we carefully chose the most influential backgrounds from both universes.
For the Hell level, we started with a whole new process, and that was lay out the design, get Ed to approve the design, send it out to concept, have concept do it, bring it back, and then have the artist make the pieces. So I think Hell was like a really good proving ground for this is how good an MK level can be with this generation hardware, using a different process to assemble a level.
The amount of investment and care we put into making each piece. Because we have this technology, we're able to make even the most mundane things like stones on the ground look as good as they can. And we're really trying to get accuracy, realism, scale, all these things correct to make this the best looking MK ever.
The one that stands out to me is Metropolis. I was always excited about this ruined version of Metropolis after the big fight with Superman and Darkseid.
The concept department would usually start off with a blockout of a background, so the background's kind of, the basics are there, and they'll kind of do what you'll call a paint over, where we'll take a snapshot of the 3D background, so they'll kind of have the geometry in place, then I'll take that and just kind of do a paint over on top of it and get more and more details.
The Metropolis level turned out to have multiple challenges. It was our first DC level that we were actually making. So the bar was a little bit high because there were a lot of expectations that were really high for how we could do this. That took a lot of back and forth between engineering and art and design, but I think the end result was fantastic. Batcave is 3 separate arenas. We have an upper arena that's kind of like the computer room arena. It has all his computers and his power supplies and a lot of monitors and everything that goes on his utility belt and extra suits and hats and cowls. And so that's the whole upper level. The mid level, we call it the airstrip level. It has a bat plane on one side, it has the traditional bat wing on the other side. If you have the planes, well, you got to have hangars to kind of hold them, and you have to have a route for them to get out, and so that looked really nice. And then the third level is the garage, and the garage is all the way on the bottom, so it has our version of the Batmobile, and we also have a bat boat down there. Lots of water effects, a lot of cave effects. You know, we have waterfalls and caustics from the water, and bats flying all over the place. So it was a tremendous amount of fun to make that level.
Our environments are very detailed, and kudos go to the team for that. They wanted to give the level of detail into the environments because they know that the MK and DC fan bases are very, very rabid. They're very into content. The consumer, after they play in a while, they're going to notice some things in the backgrounds that they might have not have noticed over the first month or two of playing the game. I mean, it's that level of detail. A lot of the environment artists are huge DC fans, so they want to be able to put in their little shouts out to the little things that they've always gravitated towards growing up.
Starting up on the game and starting up on the interpretation of these characters, we were trying to figure out what elements we can keep and subtract from each character set from the universes. Basically, it's bridging the gaps and establishing a middle ground between the two, where each one still retained their character and the essence of what that character is, but also would complement the other side.
It's the first representation that people have of Mortal Kombat characters in the next generation.
With Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe, we've tried to get more of a realistic look to the characters, more realistic look to the backgrounds than previous games. We chose to kind of mute the colors a bit in this game just so it looks a little bit more real, have more digitized textures so the characters really look like human beings.
MK always had a very armored or very layered approach to their characters. Of course, with superhero genre, there's the interpretation visually of it being pretty much a bodysuit and insignias and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of stripped down elements on the superhero side and a lot of layered, textured elements on MK.
The MK characters have definitely been updated. Well, obviously they have a lot more detail because of the next generation capabilities. You know, they've received kind of an overhaul. Like Scorpion has got that really nice skull mask and everything. So just the level of detail is just steps above and beyond the previous titles. So people in the past might have noticed that Sony used to have a thong on, and this time we just added a tan line where the thong used to be. It's a little fun fact for you hardcore MK fans.
This was the first time that DC characters have been represented with as much detail and in 3D. You see Flash's costume, it's not just red, but it's a red texture on it. You come in close, you see details that you wouldn't have thought would be on a Batman costume, a Flash costume, a Green Lantern costume.
As far as the iconistic quality of the DC characters, we've tried to stay true to what that look and that feel is, and a lot of that we went back and forth with DC on. So they definitely want to maintain that quality and that identity of each character, but we've tried to push that a little bit more to MKIs, if you will, some of the DC characters, incorporating them into more of our view of what those characters might be.
That was a fun part of the game, was working with DC to decide what kind of features we want to bring out in these characters that everybody's used to seeing in some form, now in a really high resolution, high definition presentation.
This is the first time that the technology allowed us to capture all the detail that we could actually imagine in the characters. So this was actually the first time we were able to make characters look exactly as we imagined without any handicaps. From a character modeling standpoint, I think Baraka was probably the most interesting to model. On this game, we had the technology to capture very fine wrinkles and details in the characters that we weren't able to before. And so most of the characters that we have are mostly everyday people, but he's like one of the few creatures that we have where you can take advantage of wrinkles, very monstrous looking skin.
I worked on Catwoman, and that was actually a really fun challenge. I enjoyed working on her. She has such a rich history, so many different various interpretations of the character. It was a real challenge to try to pick the one. And so I think the costume that we chose, the more contemporary costume that she's wearing in the current books, worked out the best. She's got some nice accessories, a nice presence, some identifiable marks, the goggles and the zip cat suit, and there's a certain level of sexiness that's associated with the outfit as well, and it makes her seem very sleek and limber, and it complements the figure very well, so she's drawn well on the screen, and very identifiable silhouette. The catsuit just lent itself a lot to costume detail. I love to paint all the little folds and seams and things like that, and the surface tension of her catsuit just lent itself to the ability that I have, and the team members always heap upon me, "You're the wrinkle guy." So I went ahead and went to town on her, basically. Plus, she's just kind of a sexy, classic character to work on. It's nice to be able to say, hey, that one's mine.
The DC characters and MK characters have pretty different movesets in terms of their special moves. I mean, Superman's moves are never going to be shared on any other character. You want Superman to look like Superman. Batman has some stuff that he does with his cape specific to him. We like that we can tailor certain DC characters to look really cool and make those fans of those characters think, yeah, that's Batman, that's a Batman move.
Are the MK characters different in this game? Certainly. You got better models, new movesets. We're able to do more than we did in the last 3 years. Working with the DC characters, awesome. You grow up reading comic books, and you're like, oh, I need to make a move for Batman. I need to make a move for Superman. And you could only dream of doing a license like this.
The aspect I'm most proud of in this game would have to be just the overall look of it and the overall feel of it. And I think in this version, it's the most fluid game that we've come up with in this franchise. It looks realistic and it feels like real motion.
For everybody who's not aware of the process that goes into creating this game, the army of people that sweated over creating these beautiful environments, it's nothing like we've ever seen before, from the concept art to the models, the textures, all of the work that went into creating this game. I think, it's kind of a dream come true for all of us.